AITA for refusing to buy my girlfriend any more diet soda because she won't get a job. I, 26 meters, have been with my girlfriend, 27F, for over 3 years, and we've been living together for almost 2 years of that time. Not long after she left her job. This was before COVID, so it had nothing to do with that. She just couldn't deal with her boss anymore. I supported her leaving the job because her boss really was mistreating her. I do okay financially, but I'm not making a ton of money in my career yet. But I thought she'd hit the pavement right away and start looking for something else. Well, that didn't happen. For the first few days, she just hung around the apartment. After those few days, I asked her if she was going to start looking for something else. She answered, "Really? I just quit my job. Can you just give me a week or two to catch my breath?" After that, whenever I asked, she began to cite anxiety and depression as the reason she couldn't look for or take a job. While I've tried to be supportive and understanding, it's been hard as we've more or less lived paycheck to paycheck. While I've often felt anxious and depressed myself, but having had no choice but to go to work. Once COVID hit, she tried to get relief but was denied because she'd already been out of work too long and her unemployment had nothing to do with the pandemic. She then began to use COVID as an excuse why she couldn't work. This brings us to a few days ago. I went to do some grocery shopping and my girlfriend asked me to pick up a case of Diet Dr. Pepper for her. She is addicted to the stuff. To her credit, she doesn't drink or smoke or eat much junk food at all. Diet Dr. Pepper is basically her only vice, but she'll easily drink 6-7 cans of it in a day. Anyway, I refused to buy it for her. I told her on the way out the door, "Nope, that's a luxury item. I'm not paying for that." Long story short, when I got home without the DDP, we got into a huge argument. She accused me of financially controlling her. I told her that from now on I would only provide for her completely basic needs, but that if she wanted any treats beyond that, she'd need to get a job and pay for them herself. AITA? I agree. I, 35F, have an ex who up and quit going to work, spring 2019. I gave him some time and my patience, thinking he was going through something, but he didn't look for another job, help me cook, or help me clean, which progressed to him stopping all his mental health medications and not going to therapy anymore. Instead, he'd sleep all day, play video game all night, and smoked medicinal marijuana. And I'd tell him I wasn't happy, that I was exhausted working 50+ hours/WK, then grabbing fast food, because I was too exhausted to cook, and then have to clean. On top of that, what started as me massaging him and he'd reciprocate turned into me just massaging him every night. When he had a knee injury and wasn't mobile, when I'd get up I'd ask him if he wanted me to get him something, but that carried over well after his injury healed. I had enough last November and left him. I then moved south. I've been dating my BF I've known since 16, and unfortunately it feels similar. I'm literally paying for shit his ex didn't get fixed on their cars. Long story. Plus I'm the only one cleaning and doing laundry. I'm also sleep deprived due to my car situation. I don't have a car. I plan to get a car here soon and move out on my own. I think after this I just need to be alone for a while and go to therapy. IMO up is majorly NTA and should leave the GF. Edit to add, since it was brought up by other comments. I did speak to my ex and current BF about expectations in the relationship. Both of us work in household chores split 50-50. With my ex, he had a gross friend who'd not work. Gross friend had a GF who worked and paid for everything. I flat out told my ex that I never wanted a relationship like that I wouldn't support him being unemployed. Disability W/disability payment being the exception. Let's take one quick break and focus on something. 6-7 cans of pop a day. What the ever-living hasn't made you stop and talk about this before now? Cost aside, that is a crazy unhealthy addiction. Straight up, smoking sparingly or drinking semi-regularly are less unhealthy than drinking that much pop. Back on topic. Know your NTA. Girl has been living off you for years because she's not being forced to provide for herself. Most adults feel an inherent need to take care of themselves, but the people that don't generally never do. Participant 1. She's probably hoping you'll take care of her and maybe your kids forever. She might not actually be hoping for that, but rather counting on that. A lot of people want to get back to work, but for various reasons don't go through the effort necessary to get a job. Whether that's anxiety, depression, self-misdiagnosed mental illness, lack of motivation, or something else, it has the same effect in the end. But I'll bet the girlfriend will deny up and down that she wants a lifelong free ride. She's just relying on one, at least for now. I'll also say that it's very likely that the girlfriend will make her backup plans, family, friends, seem terrible and untenable. However, while they might be worse, they likely exist in a way Op doesn't realize, which is something to be factored into any decision regarding their future. You need to let her know this is unsustainable. I can no longer support your not working. I am not dismissing your mental health concerns. If you truly cannot work, I need you to get the professional help necessary to deal with the issues that are preventing you from doing so. The financial and emotional strain of supporting both of us with no help is now affecting my mental health. I have allowed your issues to be the priority for almost 2 years, and now need to put my own well-being first or I won't be able to support either of us. Then give her a timeline for when you expect her to have at least a part-time job, or have a therapist who is either helping her overcome her mental health issues or getting her on disability if she truly can work. And make clear what you will do if she won't meet that timeline: move out, break up and only be roommates, stop paying for anything but rent and utilities, etc. Just make sure what you lay out are things you can and will do. Otherwise, when you don't follow through, she will know that she never has to work, because there won't actually be consequences. If she argues with you, just keep repeating, I have allowed your issues to be the priority for almost 2 years, and now need to put my own well-being first or I won't be able to support either of us. This won't be easy, but at this point it's clearly necessary. The only one I could understand from her side was him asking about a job after less than a week. As someone who only quit serious things like jobs after a huge breaking point, like my mom and dad who were immigrants and always talked about how there was never a good reason to quit a job that paid you well, kept telling me to quit and take time to work on my mental health, it would take me more than a few days to be okay enough to look for a job. However, everything else in this post I agree with Op. She really should have started looking for another job once her savings were close to running out and she wouldn't have been able to contribute to finances. If what Op says is true, she's not depressed. She's using mental health issues as an excuse, demonstrated by how she only brings it up when asked about employment. She also uses other excuses, so it's just whatever excuse is relevant at the time. Also notice how she cries abuse when she's not enabled. Classic use and abuse. Refusing to buy someone soda isn't financial control, and the only thing financial about it is how the money could be used on better things, like actual food. ESH, you're avoiding the larger issue and trying to prod her towards doing what you want by holding a tiny thing hostage. That's a passive-aggressive way to deal with an issue. If you have an issue with her not looking for a job, sit her down and tell her, I am worried that you have gone so long without a job and won't look for one. I am not interested in a relationship where I am the sole earner. What if something happened to me? What if I lost my job? It makes me resentful that you get to sit home all day while I work. I need you to get a job if this relationship is going to continue. And then deal with the fallout of that conversation as it comes. If she won't do it, is full of more excuses, better to know that now than in a few more years. Man up, address the issues. I scrolled past all the other comments to find a comment that said this: he is an A for using a food item, regardless if it's luxury or not, as a passive-aggressive means of not dealing with the real issue. They both need to grow up and communicate. He needs to sit down and have an actual conversation with her about her actions, his expectations, and both their feelings. Counting how much money a partner contributes to a relationship is just demeaning the whole relationship. If her lack of employment is causing hardship, he needs to talk to her about it, and they need to come up with a plan together instead of him withholding items she likes as a means of control. If they can't come up with a plan or she doesn't do her part, then he should think about leaving. But what he described is not how a real, healthy relationship works. Communication is key and severely lacking in this situation. Op needs to stop beating around the bush and stop implying something needs to be done. Sit down and say exactly how you feel and your expectations, and be willing to listen. Participant 2. Finally, I scrolled too far down to see this post. The second of the 4 horsemen of relationship doom is contempt. That op chooses the contemptuous route of describing her to others, and of communicating with her, speaks volumes about the relationship. Let's agree, deciding to not buy Dr. Pepper is petty and spiteful as a communication style, as opposed to a reasonable conversation about how he feels about supporting her when she does not contribute financially. We don't know what their previous conversations have looked like. If he's critical and or contemptuous, then that relationship's been over for a while. Perhaps, though, he's been an absolute angel, reasonable, supportive, careful to avoid verbal or emotional abuse while remaining firm about his values and feelings. However, find this excessively unlikely, and no one knows the whole story. Is there abuse, emotional, verbal, physical, sexual? Is the boyfriend sabotaging her efforts to find jobs, or find psychiatric help? Is he perhaps benefiting from the sympathy of his friends and family, and meanwhile considers himself justified in upping the amounts of abuse he can thrust upon her? Does he answer questions about why don't you leave her if she sucks so much, with evasion or excuses, or, the classic, but I love her so much? I understand where both of you are coming from, but it's been handled poorly all around. It's totally understandable not wanting to job hunt during a pandemic. It will only increase her risk of exposure, and considering the jobs available are mostly service-related, put her chances of getting COVID very high. That also increases her chances of catching it, since you're living with her. That said, if she had a decent amount of time pre-COVID to get a job, she should have gotten on that. You can't constantly quote mental issues without doing the work to handle them. That's not fair to you, and puts more burden on you. Taking away her pop when it's her only vice, unprompted, is just mean though. You guys need to sit down and talk about this. Explain to her the pressure you feel being the only source of income in the house. Tell her you're also dealing with depression and anxiety, and that it would help your peace of mind if she found work. We're coming into a point where many places are opening up now, and with people getting vaccinated, infection rates are going down. Now's a good time for her to start hunting. Flip side, is she doing all the cooking, cleaning? Does she carry her weight with the chores, or do you guys split it 50-50? Anytime my wife or I are unemployed, the one at home ends up doing all the work to take stress off the working one. Edit. Thanks for the awards. Much appreciated. Certified Proctologist, 27, NTA. She's financially controlling you by demanding to be financially supported, demanding luxuries, and leaving you with no ability to save or spend money on yourself. She's literally encouraged to get a job, something that would not be the case with financial abuse. She can take her pity party elsewhere. She's incredibly ungrateful, and honestly you might need to set a timeline on how much support you're willing to offer. Don't let her walk all over you. Don't let years of unemployment go by. NTA. But I'd say if you haven't sat down with her and had a proper long conversation about finances and the way you're feeling, then suddenly turning the table and refusing to buy her one vice, then that's an asshole move. I know you're not the asshole per se, but it's not nice. It might be unwanted, but my advice, you need to tell her that you're feeling anxious and depressed, and that it's been hard to support the both of you on your own. You can't expect people to suddenly know why you're refusing to buy things for them. She might not realize the strain her behavior is putting on you. If you've had that whole conversation and nothing has changed, well, throw the whole woman away. How soon after she moved in did she quit her job? Looking back on it, did you witness her boss mistreating her in any way, or in hindsight does it seem more like she made an excuse to quit? How soon after meeting did she move in? The type of work you do for a living, is it likely to lead to a high income in the future? Was she aware of this when you met? I am saying these things not to disparage quick relationships, but if she moved in quick and quit her job quick and has been relying on you ever since, it sounds like it is her plan from the very beginning. She may have a view in her head of being the stay-at-home wife, Sam, with the successful husband doing everything to support the whole family, which is absolutely fine if that is what both people want and agree on, which it does not seem like the case. AITA, on one income. Luxury's gotta go first. You're not financially controlling her because you're encouraging her to get a job. If you were encouraging her to stay home, that would be different. After we had kids, my boyfriend and I decided I was going to stay home until they were a bit bigger, 11 months apart, so daycare would eat up most of my income. That included giving up luxuries I once paid for easily. I dated a guy when I was like 24 who quit his job a few months into our relationship and always acted like it was impossible to find another. Wasn't it amazing that after I stopped paying for his stuff he found a job within like a week? AITA. At first I wanted to say nah, as I've been in the shoes of being jobless and just not having the energy to keep applying for jobs that wouldn't even give me a response. But then she tried to claim you were financially controlling her, and I just don't even understand how she can pretend to claim that. Yeah, all are living paycheck to paycheck. Does she help clean, keep the place in working order since she's not working? If not, she literally has no leg to stand on. And even if so, the leg is shaky at best. You need to have a serious talk about things, about the fact that her inability, or unwillingness, but the only person that can say for certain which it is between you two, to get a job is causing serious stress to you and your relationship, both mentally and financially. AITA. She barely tried getting a job. There might be a very big reason behind that. Some years ago, I went 1.5 year unemployed, and even after that the first job I had was an emotional hell, followed by some more months of unemployment. The process of fruitless job hunting and many useless workshops mentally exhausted me, making me very desperate, and in a sense quite whiny and pessimistic, angry and sad. My then girlfriend, now wife, got so worried that she sent me to a psychologist, fearing that I was depressed. All of that, combined with the job from hell, made me very anxious to try out new fields too, which didn't help either. So, I know how tough job hunting can be. In all honesty, I think it sucks big time, but there is still the responsibility of being an adult. You can't just slack off claiming you just can't go looking for a job, while someone else earns barely enough for both of you. This should be a wake-up call for her. You have to make clear that you do not feel comfortable with her just sitting at home without trying, while you barely make ends meet with just your salary. That's just not what you guys agreed on. She has to put in some effort as well. Living together is not the same as being a kid living with your parents who provide for you. It comes with mutual responsibilities. ESH, really, instead of having healthy conversations with your girlfriend, setting clear boundaries and timelines and expectations, you decide to lay down the law over a case of Diet Dr. Pepper. That's one of the cheapest beverages around, hardly a luxury item. I don't think you're an off for setting this boundary, but I do think you're an off for allowing your resentment to build up to such a level that you're choosing this asinine hill to die on. You two both need to communicate better. AITA. But I'm not sure this is the best way to get through to her. You need to have a serious adult conversation about how this situation is affecting you and about how she needs to make a plan to at the very least pull her weight in the household and or start looking for employment. If she cites anxiety, depression and had a terrible enough time at the last job that even you will admit her boss was mistreating her, she could really use therapy. She could have an aversion to even thinking about working again due to her past experiences, and that needs to be worked through. Holding one of the few vices over her head might get her attention, but if you want to make this relationship work and actually function as a team, That has to be the approach. Express the strain it's put on you, explore actually working through whatever is keeping her from looking for work, and have her make a plan to move forward. Otherwise, you'll continue to build resentment towards her and she towards you.